What's the number one tip when you're making love with a trans woman? I am here with Haley Harkness from HaleyHarkness.com. Am I saying it right?
Haley Heartless, yeah.
Yeah, Heartless.com. And I'm Kathy Martilli from theintimacydojo.com. And Haley, you're presenting Making Love to a Trans Woman at ConvergeCon in like a month and a half. If someone wanted to know what's the number one tip for making love with a trans woman, what would you tell them?
I think the number one tip with any trans woman is that she is an expert on her own body and her own experience. So communication, it's just like any sex. Communication is really important. And listening to her and knowing what's okay with her, but also, being comfortable with your own boundaries as well, and understanding that, if you're with a trans woman, it might be different than what you're used to, and you should be comfortable to be able to say no as well. And if you're with somebody who's cool, then it shouldn't be a problem. You should go at your own pace.
Yeah, I love that, because I think sex in general is awkward, and then if someone's playing with someone that they don't know, like a new person of any kind, is going to be awkward, and then learning the boundaries and what each person wants.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they're with a trans woman, they might feel a lot of conflicting feelings because maybe they've never been with a woman who has a penis before, or maybe there's certain things about her body that are different than what they're used to. So, it is okay to say, like, we have to slow down, or maybe I'm not so into that, just as long as you're not being too self-centered. Just like any exchange, you should both be getting something out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that as long as you're not rude or putting someone down, saying that's not my thing. It's like you just shared that you were at West Coast bound, and like, I'm not very kinky. Like, I love that you went. I'm glad that you had a good time, but it's probably not someplace I'm going to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
What is a question that you often get, like when you teach this class, or when you're negotiating with someone?
So oftentimes in this class, I get people in who, like, I really like it when people ask questions. I like it when people ask inappropriate questions. Well, because so many people are afraid to say what they're really interested in when it comes to sex with trans women. Like, they don't want to ask questions that they're afraid will be like fetishizing, or inappropriate, or that maybe they think they should know the answer to. But I think one of the questions I've been asked a lot, and one of the things I try to tackle in the workshop, is just how to meet trans women who are interested in having sex or are interested in hookups without it being creepy or inappropriate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fine. Like, it's okay to want to have sex with a trans woman. And there are trans women who want to have sex with people who just want to hook up. But where it gets weird is that people, men or women, or non-binary people sometimes even, who you would think should know better, sometimes don't really know the appropriate venue and the appropriate ways to go about doing it. So you get people that show up at, like, support groups, or, hitting
on people in support groups, not generally.
Yeah. So, and there are ways you can meet trans women who are interested in having sex, for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious, the way it occurs, I'm a bigger woman, and so when people come up to me, if they're like, I love your curves, I don't mind that, but if they're like, I like fat people and you're fat, like, it feels objectifying. Like, it doesn't feel like they actually want to know me as a human. And
yeah.
If you have a similar experience around trans people approaching you first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people do come up and say inappropriate things, but usually it's just more inappropriately timed. Like, I'm the sort of person who is quite often not too bothered with weird or inappropriate questions.
Yeah.
I guess, I'm a little bit more open, but yeah, I mean, you don't want somebody coming up to you and like asking questions about your genitals, or even like asking if you're a top or whatever, like when you're trying to do the grocery shopping.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
not. And your grandma's there with you, or
most people don't. If it was me and it was somebody that was really cute, I might find it endearing, but I'm a weirdo.
yeah. No, that's. I mean, I love that. But yeah, there are times where it's really inappropriate, and you're like, "Oh, please don't do this."
Yeah.
Can you share another? Like you shared a little bit. Like, what's another uncomfortable? Like someone awkwardly asked you. Like, what's a question people ask you, and how do you reply to it?
A question that people ask me, like people who are looking to hook up.
It could be, yeah, or in classes, like like people that are wanting to learn about it, learn about how to make love to a trans woman, or like learning how to hit on you without being totally awkward and being really awkward in the meantime.
I don't know. The people that come to my classes are actually surprisingly pretty decent, and I try not to make it an awkward experience. I don't really think that there's bad questions. There's a lot of like really basic questions that I think are really basic,
Yeah.
that that other people don't like. It's completely alien, and especially when people come to my classes and maybe they haven't been in Canada for very long, so they don't have very much experience with trans people and exploring their own sexuality. So I do sometimes get questions on from people who don't understand the difference between gender and sexuality, and they want me to explain straight trans women and gay trans women and things like that, or how a trans woman can be a lesbian. It seems to be like a barrier for some people who maybe don't have the same sort of cultural experience,
Yeah.
just queer cultural experience. So yeah, I get a lot of questions like that, but I mean, I try and answer them as best as I can. And for some people, they have a hard time wrapping their heads around it. But I think most people, like, people who are coming to the workshop, a lot of times they're really nervous or whatever, and I try and make it an easy place to ask questions.
I love that you do that, because I think I'm kind of spoiled. I'm in the Bay Area bubble. You're in Canada, where people are. It seems like there's a lot more acceptance and ability to talk about things. And for a lot of people, I lived in Dallas for a long time. There was not a lot of. Nobody was chatting about this around the water cooler. So I'm really glad that you're helping normalize that for people.
Yeah, and I think it's really about just normalizing the idea of trans women as sexual people, but not like hypersexualized. So as a trans woman, and especially for me as a fat trans woman, oftentimes you're either hypersexualized and super objectified, or completely desexualized. And I think with the Making Love to a Trans Woman workshop, it's just sort of about normalizing trans women as a normal sexual experience. Like one of the things that I've said in workshops is, it's okay to be into a trans woman, just like it's okay to be into redheads. But when you make being into redheads like a part of your core being or your politic, and you tell all your friends how much you love redheads, it gets really weird. So I think
Yeah, it can get like.
it just becomes like a normal thing. Like it's not so exceptional, but it's still cool and beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you teaching this. Have you been to ConvergeCon before?
Yeah, I've been to ConvergeCon every year since it started as a guest.
Yeah. So,
My first time presenting.
why are you excited to be at ConvergeCon this year?
I think like I've just seen it grow, and I've seen myself grow as well as a person and an activist and a facilitator. And for me, it's just it's just really nice to be able to be there and to be able to bring a workshop like Making Love to a Trans Woman, because there's workshops for queer sexuality and there's workshops for trans women's sex ed, although there isn't very many of them.
Right.
But the idea of a workshop for people for cis people or trans people or non-binary people that want to have sex with a trans woman or might possibly have sex with a trans woman or have questions about sex with a trans woman. That sort of a workshop is a little bit different than what other people are doing, and I really like that I can bring it to an audience like ConvergeCon.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's a great audience for it, and it's such a warm conference. I always feel like people that are scared are just like, this is my first time going to a sexuality conference. It's like, yeah, this is a really great, safe place to dive in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to add about your talk or what you're teaching?
Um, I don't think so. Like, I'm really excited that I get to do this. I'm really excited that I get to do this with Olivia.
Yeah.
Olivia helped me create this workshop. And when we first created this workshop, it was basically her and I in a sex shop. And we were advertising it on Twitter to men who liked trans porn. And we were like, hey, you know, we could do this workshop. And guys would pay $50 a pop to see you naked live in person, and I could talk about your body, and we could just make money off of these men who they'd come in and empty their wallets and see you naked, and I'd give a talk so that it's educational. And it seems like when we started doing the workshop, it was about half, or around half of guys like that, but there was like also like lesbians there and non-binary people and other trans people. And so it's like, okay, this is something else, and I'm really excited how this workshop has evolved and the interest it's gotten locally, starting from those roots. And I'm really excited that Olivia is going to be there with her clothes on, presenting this workshop with me, because she has so much to contribute. And between the two of us, we've got such a range of experiences as sexual people. We have different sort of sex lives, and we complement each other really well.
That's really exciting. I can't wait to hear your talk. It's not very far away. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with people so that whether they can get to ConvergeCon or not, they know about a little bit of a doorway, and they can go to HaleyHeartless.com. It's below in the description if you want to check out Haley more and find out more. Thank you very much, Haley.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah.